After World War II, hundreds of German war brides journey across the U.S. on bride trains to Kansas, where Red Cross volunteers teach them English during water stops. Arriving in a new land, they face varied receptions and form enduring social clubs to navigate isolation and prejudice, building new lives in unfamiliar territory. The year was 1946. Europe lay in ruins, a scarred continent slowly stirring from the nightmare of war. For many, hope was a fragile thing, a distant whisper amidst the rubble. But for hundreds of German women, a new kind of hope was taking shape, driven by love and a daring promise. The War Brides Act, passed by the American Congress in 1945, had opened a narrow yet profound window to a new life across the Atlantic. These women, many of whom had fallen in love with American soldiers during the occupation, were embarking on an extraordinary journey, a passage that would forever alter their destinies. They were to travel to a land largely unknown, carried by what would soon be affectionately, or sometimes with a hint of skepticism, called the bride trains. At the heart of this unfolding story was Anna Müller, a young German woman whose heart, weary from the constant fear and privation of wartime, had found an unexpected anchor in the kindness of an American soldier named David. Their love, born amidst the chaos, was now her beacon. She clutched a worn photograph of David, his smile a stark contrast to the grim landscape she was leaving behind. Beside her, Margaret Schmidt, a fellow war bride, possessed a more boisterous spirit. Margaret had married a sergeant from Ohio, a man whose booming laugh she cherished, even if she barely understood half of his letters. Her eyes, though bright with anticipation, also held a flicker of apprehension. "Do you think it will truly be so different, Anna?" Margaret asked, her voice hushed, betraying the bravado she usually presented. "They say the streets are paved with gold, but my Erwin just writes about cornfields." Anna smiled faintly. "David speaks of wide-open spaces and endless skies. I hope for peace, Margaret, just peace." Guiding them, and hundreds of others like them, was Clara Thompson, a dedicated American Red Cross volunteer. Clara embodied the empathetic spirit of her organization, her kind eyes missing nothing, her hands always ready to offer comfort or assistance. She knew this journey was more than just a logistical exercise. It was a profound human migration, fraught with dreams and fears. She had seen the skepticism in the eyes of some back home, the whispers of ex-enemies that sometimes marred the noble cause of family reunification. But in the tear-streaked faces of these young women, she saw only humanity, bravery, and a desperate longing for a fresh start. The day of departure from Germany was a whirlwind of emotions. Anna stood on the cold platform, her small suitcase clutched tight, watching the last vestiges of her childhood recede. Her mother, her siblings, her village, all became a blur of waving hands and tearful goodbyes. A bitter taste of relief mingled with a profound ache of loss. The war had taken so much. Now she was voluntarily leaving the little that remained. Margaret, ever practical, tried to lighten the mood. "At least we won't have to ration butter anymore," she declared, though her own eyes were glistening. The other brides, a sea of anxious faces, murmured in agreement, their individual hopes and anxieties a collective hum in the cold morning air. Each woman carried her own silent burden, a mixture of guilt for leaving and desperate hope for a better future. The devastation of Europe was a powerful push, but the promise of love and a new home in America was an even stronger pull. The voyage across the Atlantic was long and arduous. The ship, once a troop carrier, now ferried a cargo of dreams and uncertainties. Seasickness was rampant, and the cramped conditions tested everyone's patience. Yet, in the shared discomfort, a peculiar camaraderie began to blossom. Women who had been strangers just days before now shared stories of their courtship, worries about their future husbands, and whispered prayers for safe passage. Anna found solace in Margaret's robust optimism. They would sit on the deck wrapped in thin blankets, watching the endless expanse of the ocean. "My Erwin said the waves in the Atlantic are nothing compared to the storms of the Pacific," Margaret once mused, trying to sound brave, but clutching Anna's hand a little tighter. The language barrier was an omnipresent challenge, leading to comical misunderstandings, but also deepening the reliance on nonverbal cues, a shared glance, a comforting touch, a collective sigh. Each sunset brought them closer to an unknown land, a future both thrilling and terrifying. Finally, the Statue of Liberty appeared on the horizon, a majestic silhouette against the dawn sky. A collective gasp, then murmurs of awe, rippled through the ship. They had arrived. New York City, a vibrant, bustling behemoth, loomed before them, a stark contrast to the bombed-out cities they had left behind. But before they could set foot on this new land, there was Ellis Island. The immigration process was rigorous, almost clinical. Officials in crisp uniforms scrutinized documents, asked curt questions, and conducted thorough health examinations. It was a formal, often intimidating experience that stripped away their individual identities, reducing them to mere statistics in a vast bureaucratic machine. Anna felt a surge of fear as she imagined being turned away, her fragile dream shattered. Margarete, for once, was subdued, her usual ebullience replaced by quiet nervousness. "They look at us like we're specimens," she whispered to Anna, her voice barely audible. The sheer scale of the operation, the endless lines, the cacophony of languages, was overwhelming. Yet, beyond the stern faces of the officials, Anna saw glimpses of the America David had described, a land of endless possibilities, even if the gates to it were guarded by formidable bureaucracy. From Ellis Island, they were directed to Fort Dix, a processing center where the military took over. Here the formalities continued, but with a slightly softer edge, thanks to the Red Cross. They underwent further medical checks, received last-minute vaccinations, and attended orientation sessions, which felt more like a lecture on American customs than a warm welcome. It was here that each bride received her train ticket, paid for by the U.S. Army. The tickets were tangible proof of their new lives, a pass to the American interior. Clara Thompson and her fellow Red Cross volunteers moved through the crowded halls, offering assistance, answering questions, and distributing essential kits. "Here are some diapers, ladies," Clara said to a young mother, her voice gentle, "and some tea for the journey. We have first aid supplies if anyone needs them." These small acts of kindness were a lifeline, a reminder that humanity still existed amidst the overwhelming process. The Red Cross was more than an organization. It was a network of warm smiles, practical help, and unwavering support, making the vastness of America feel a little less daunting. The air on the platform crackled with anticipation as the women boarded the waiting train. It was no ordinary journey. It was a migration of hearts. The train itself, often comprised of elegant Pullman cars, hummed with a unique energy. Inside, the seats were plush, the windows wide, offering a glimpse into the sprawling American landscape. The atmosphere was a strange blend of excitement and trepidation. As the train began its slow rumble out of the station, one of the conductors chuckled. "Another one of them bride trains, eh?" The name stuck, reflecting the peculiar cargo of hope and new beginnings these locomotives carried across the vast expanse of the country. Clara Thompson, along with a cadre of other Red Cross volunteers, had joined them on the train. They were a steadying presence, their calm demeanor a balm to the anxious women. Clara moved through the aisles, her uniform crisp, her smile reassuring. "Anyone need a fresh change for the baby?" she asked, carrying a basket filled with soft linens and formula. "More tea, anyone?" She didn't just offer physical sustenance. She offered emotional comfort, listening patiently to broken English pleas and tearful German confessions. The women felt a deep sense of gratitude for these American women who seemed to understand their silent fears. One of the most remarkable innovations on these journeys occurred during the technical stops, those brief pauses in small, forgotten towns where the train would recoal and refill its water tanks. These weren't mere breaks. They became impromptu classrooms. Red Cross nurses, with cheerful determination, would gather the women, holding up large laminated cards. "How much is this?" one card read, accompanied by a picture of a loaf of bread. "Where's the faucet?" another asked, with an illustration of a sink. Margrethe, ever eager, would repeat the phrases with gusto, her pronunciation comically exaggerated, making the other women laugh. Anna, more reserved, would quietly practice, her brow furrowed in concentration. They sang children's songs, their German accents lending a charming cadence to "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." These were their first formal English lessons, snatched between water stops, providing not just words but a sense of agency, a tool to unlock their new world. For many, these short, intense sessions would prove invaluable. Testimonies collected years later by historians, and even featured in the opera The War Bride, record how many of these women learned their very first, crucial English words in these unlikely classroom settings. The train cars, usually filled with the rhythmic clickety-clack of the rails, now echoed with hesitant English phrases and the cheerful melodies of nursery rhymes. As the days turned into nights, and the landscape outside the windows transformed from the urban sprawl of the East Coast to the vast plains of the Midwest, deep bonds formed among the women. They were a sisterhood, united by a shared past of war and a common future of uncertainty. They shared stories, exchanged recipes, and comforted each other during moments of homesickness that felt like a physical ache. Margaret often regaled them with exaggerated tales of her courtship with Erwin, making everyone giggle despite their weariness. Anna, quieter, found herself opening up about David's gentle nature and his promises of a quiet life. The train became a cocoon, a temporary sanctuary where their fears were understood, their hopes amplified. They realized they were not alone. Their journey was a collective one, each woman a pillar of strength for the next. The challenges of the journey, the occasional breakdowns, the unfamiliar food, the constant longing for their husbands, were lessened by this growing sense of community. The final leg of the journey took them into the heart of Kansas, with branches of the Santa Fe and Rock Island railroads delivering them to towns like Junction City, Wichita, and Winfield. The names sounded exotic, almost fantastical to ears accustomed to German nomenclature. The reception was a tapestry of contrasting experiences. As the train pulled into the station at Junction City, Anna peered out the window, her heart pounding. David was supposed to be there. Margaret, next to her, was already scanning the crowd, a wide grin spreading across her face. Erwin, you oaf over here," she shouted, already gathering her belongings, her fear momentarily forgotten in the joy of reunion. For some, like Margaret, the embrace of their husbands was a triumphant, tearful end to the long separation. For others, the reception was more formal, a quiet handshake with a husband they barely knew or hadn't seen in years. Local clubs, often women's groups from the community, waited on the platforms, offering trays of tea and small cakes, a gesture of welcome that was both touching and slightly overwhelming. Anna spotted David, taller than she remembered, his uniform crisp. His smile was warm, a steadying presence. "Anna," he murmured, pulling her into a tight embrace, the smell of him, of home, enveloping her. She closed her eyes, a single tear escaping. She had made it. But the real journey, the integration into American life, was just beginning. The reality of their new homes varied dramatically. Some, like Anna, found themselves in modest but comfortable houses in emerging veteran neighborhoods, financed by the GI Bill. These communities, though new, offered a sense of shared experience with other military families. Others, however, discovered a far more rustic existence. Margaret found herself on a sprawling farm outside Winfield, miles from any town, in a house that lacked electricity and running water. "Erwin, you said a house. This is a shack," she exclaimed, half laughing, half crying, staring at the kerosene lamp. The adjustment was profound. From the modern conveniences, or lack thereof, to the daily routines, everything was different. Learning to cook with unfamiliar ingredients, navigate a foreign monetary system, and understand local customs became a daily adventure. There were delicate moments of navigation with new in-laws, some welcoming, others wary. Anna found David's mother to be kind but reserved, observing her new German daughter-in-law with an inscrutable gaze. These initial interactions were a dance of tentative steps, humor, and a deep-seated desire to connect. The cultural and linguistic barriers proved to be formidable. Anna found herself struggling with simple tasks, unable to express her needs or understand directions. A trip to the grocery store could become an ordeal, filled with mispronounced words and gestures. Margaret, despite her outgoing nature, found the solitude of the farm isolating. Her attempts at conversation with the stoic farming neighbors often ended in confusion. "They speak English, but it's not the same English from the cards," she lamented to Anna during a rare phone call. These daily struggles sometimes led to frustrating misunderstandings, but also to hilarious anecdotes that they would later recount with laughter. One time, Anna accidentally bought a gallon of molasses instead of syrup, leading to a very sticky breakfast. The continuous effort to learn English, to mimic the sounds and rhythms of American speech, was exhausting but essential. They immersed themselves in dictionaries, radio programs, and patiently corrected conversations, striving to assimilate not just the language, but the very cadence of American life. Beyond the domestic adjustments, many of the war brides faced a deeper, more painful challenge: prejudice. In the wake of a devastating war, emotions ran high. Some Americans viewed them with suspicion as ex-enemies who had somehow infiltrated their country. Whispers and cold stares were not uncommon. Anna once overheard a neighbor remark, "Can't trust them, those Germans. Who knows what she's really doing here?" The sting of these words was sharp, reminding her that her past and her nationality were still a source of distrust. Margaret, with her directness, often confronted such remarks, leading to heated exchanges that Erwin had to smooth over. Yet, for every instance of prejudice, there were unexpected acts of kindness. A church group offering a helping hand, a friendly wave from a postal worker, an invitation to a neighborhood potluck. These gestures, small as they might seem, were crucial in slowly chipping away at the wall of isolation and fear. The duality of their reception painted a complex picture of America, a land capable of both profound suspicion and remarkable generosity. The women learned to navigate this social landscape, developing a keen sense for where they were welcome and where they might face cold shoulders. The inherent need for human connection, a universal yearning, became particularly acute in this new, often alienating environment. To combat the profound loneliness and the disorienting feeling of being adrift in a foreign land, the war brides began to seek each other out. This shared experience transcended the individual stories of their husbands and their towns. It was a bond forged in the fires of war and tempered by the hopes of peace. And so, organically, clubs began to form. In small towns and burgeoning cities across Kansas, these women, German, Austrian, occasionally even French or British, found common ground. They started tea and sewing clubs, gathering in each other's homes, sharing familiar pastries and the comfort of their native tongue. The group in Winfield, Margaret's new home, became particularly active, meeting every Tuesday for nearly 65 years. These clubs were more than social gatherings. They were sanctuaries. Anna, initially hesitant, found herself drawn into one such club in Davidstown. Margaret, ever the enthusiast, quickly became a central figure in the Winfield Club. These gatherings provided a space where they could speak German freely, share the joys and frustrations of their new lives, exchange tips on everything from American cooking to navigating school systems, and collectively process the trauma they had endured. They would knit, sew, and sip tea, but mostly they would talk. They talked about their children, their husbands, their memories of home, and their dreams for the future. The club served as a vital support network, a place where their identities as German women, now also American wives, were understood and celebrated. It was a space to preserve fragments of their old culture while actively building their new one. Here, their collective strength was palpable, a quiet defiance against the forces of isolation. They learned that by sharing their burdens, they made them lighter. By sharing their joys, they made them brighter. Years turned into decades. Anna and Margaret, now women of considerable age, sat on a porch swing, watching their grandchildren play in the Kansas sunshine. They had lived through so much, their lives intertwined with the history of a nation recovering from war. Their journey, once fraught with so much uncertainty, had unfolded into lives rich with experience, challenge, and profound fulfillment. Anna, her silver hair neatly braided, reflected on the sacrifices, the sheer courage it had taken to leave everything behind. "Sometimes," she mused, "I wonder how that young girl on the train ever found the strength. It seems so long ago, yet I remember the scent of the coal smoke, the sway of the car, the fear in my stomach." Margaret, her voice still holding a hint of its youthful zest, chuckled. "We were brave, Anna, braver than we knew. We had no choice but to be. And look what we built. Look at this. She gestured towards the vibrant lives around them. The American dream they had initially envisioned, perhaps a naive fantasy of paved streets and endless abundance, had been reinterpreted. For them, it wasn't about extravagant wealth, but about the small victories, raising families, planting roots, learning a new language, making friends, and finding a place to belong. It was a dream woven from resilience, hard work, and the unwavering belief in a future of peace. The in-between spaces of those bride trains, the fleeting moments of connection and learning, had laid the foundation for the profound transformation of their lives. The friendships forged on those trains and sustained in those tea clubs had endured. Margaret and Anna remained lifelong friends, their bond a testament to shared experience and unwavering support. They had seen each other through births, deaths, joys, and sorrows, their sisterhood deepening with each passing year. Their conversations, now flowing effortlessly in English with a delightful hint of an accent, were filled with reminiscence, gratitude, and a quiet pride in what they had overcome. They, along with countless other war brides, represented a silent, yet powerful contribution to American society. They had enriched the cultural fabric of their new home, brought new perspectives, and raised generations of Americans who embodied a unique blend of heritage. Their story, often overlooked in the grand narratives of history, was a powerful testament to the human spirit's capacity for adaptation, love, and the relentless pursuit of a better life. Their story was a quiet epic of resilience, a testament to the indomitable spirit of women who dared to cross an ocean for love and a new life. It was a narrative rich in the nuances of human adaptation, a vivid illustration of how courage blossoms in the face of fear, and how community can become the strongest anchor in a sea of uncertainty. These women, many of whom had been seen as symbols of a defeated nation, transformed themselves into architects of a new future, building homes and lives in a foreign land. Their willingness to embrace the unknown, to navigate cultural chasms, and to confront prejudice with quiet dignity or spirited defiance, left an indelible mark on their adopted country. The tale of the bride trains and the women who rode them serves as a poignant reminder of the enduring power of human connection. It underscores the vital role of empathy and support, exemplified by the tireless efforts of the Red Cross volunteers like Clara Thompson, who understood that true aid went beyond logistics and extended to the heart. The makeshift English lessons between water stops, the shared laughter and tears in Pullman cars, and the enduring camaraderie found in countless tea and sewing clubs, all speak to the fundamental human need for belonging. These women redefined their identities, not by erasing their past, but by integrating it into a vibrant, evolving present. They learned to be American, not by forgetting their German roots, but by weaving them into the rich tapestry of their new lives. This continuous act of self-redefinition and the building of a home, both physical and emotional, became the true essence of their American journey. Their legacy is a quiet one, perhaps not celebrated in history books as grand military victories, but etched deeply into the fabric of the communities they enriched. It is a story that goes beyond mere statistics of post-war migration, revealing the raw, honest human experience at its core. It is a tribute to the silent strength and unwavering courage of women who, despite immense personal sacrifice and societal skepticism, not only survived but thrived, leaving behind a heritage of resilience, community, and an enduring lesson in what it means to build a life anew. Their journey from war-torn lands to the prairies of Kansas, marked by the rhythmic chug of a train and the patient repetition of new words, remains a powerful testament to the strength of the human spirit. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Your support helps us grow and continue bringing you great videos. Thank you.